Hey there, it's Pete Moriarty here, and I am joined by my amazing co-host, Carl Taylor. You are listening to Entrepreneurs Rising. We want to rise the tide and rise all boats with it. This is a show for entrepreneurs, helping you to build a better business and a better life. Now, this episode is going to be a quick, short one because this is important for us to get an important point across. And I'm going to share an example of our point around boundaries and saying no and making sure that you are valuing yourself and valuing your time with how this episode started. So let me tell you about that. First, I'll say hello to Carl. Hello, Carl.
Hey, Pete. Good to be
Okay,
here.
now we're done. Thanks, Carl. So we started this episode and we've just recorded one episode. This is the second one we're recording today. And I said to Carl, I don't feel like doing a whole nother hour's episode. I really feel like just going and sitting on the couch. And Carl actually said to me, well, Pete, what if instead we did a shorter episode? And I thought, well, damn, isn't that a really good example of negotiating and boundaries? I expressed my boundary. Carl gave a suggestion to negotiate the boundary, and then I was okay to say yes to that. And I want to kind of use that as a frame to kick off this episode and this short discussion on saying no, keeping your boundaries in check, and valuing your time. Now, Carl, apart from creating a life of abundance through income, and we've talked about that in a number of episodes previously, creating a life of abundance, I think we need to be able to really, really well manage our most scarce resource, which is our time. It's the one resource that we can't buy more of, we can't get it back, and seems to slip through like sand through our fingers. And someone told me an amazing analogy that getting older feels like a toilet roll running out. You know, when it gets towards the end, it seems to spin faster and faster and faster. It's a nice analogy for life there. And so, Carl, yeah, I'm interested in what your thoughts are here on, you know, what is it to have good boundaries? What is it to really value your time? Because, you know, I know all business owners have to have a journey of this, and I'm sure you've got some wise words to share with us.
Absolutely. I mean, time is the most crucial thing. You need to protect it, whether it's time you're spending with family, friends, or in business, just getting the time to do the focus and things you need. So I got a couple of tips, I think, really quick that every business owner needs to think about. Calendar. You need to control your calendar, not other people. When someone says, hey, let's have a meeting, that doesn't mean you go, oh, great, yeah, let's put it in. Check it against your calendar. Start with, well, my process is start with filling up Wednesdays first, you know, fill from the middle of the week out. But even if I'm going to book an appointment, send them something like a Calendly link where you've already set up your available times and people can only book in on the times you've said you're available. That's control of your calendar. That's the first thing to absolutely do. And then the other thing is really just letting to set those expectations for team members that people hit me up on Facebook Messenger, on WhatsApp, on email, Slack all the time. You know what my strategy is? I ignore a lot of it. That's my strategy. It's like, this is not a priority for me. So that my way of telling people that I'll get to them later is I just ignore it. I've got team members to help in some areas, but the rest of it, it's like, I'll get to it. It might be 2 weeks from now. It might be a month from now, but I'll get to it.
I really love that you mentioned that, because what it makes me think about is when someone's in the growth mode or a hustle mode of a business, they can kind of just take on anything and they can allow poor boundaries to be set in the first instance. And, you know, I kind of think about, like, when you're growing a business, how many dicks do you need to suck? And what I mean by that is, like, you know, how many times do you have a client where, you know, you go, oh my God, I got a bad feeling about this client, but you take them on anyway, right? And it's the same kind of thing with your time and your personal space. When a customer or a potential customer messages you at 10 o'clock on a Friday night and you really need the work, you know, quite often we're going to make that decision to reply to that message. And, you know, I think there's so many underlying psychological threads, you know, behind and underneath that. I think like codependency type things come up. I think low self-esteem type patterns come up, like needing to be needed. Like, you know, if I say no to this person, then I'm not okay. Or, you know, when I said no to my parents, I was punished, or I'll be abandoned. Or for me, it's public shaming. That's like that's the worst one for me. Like if I was to be publicly shamed, like if someone wrote a bad review on our social pages, you know, that would just like kill me. I don't care if it's for the podcast. That's fine. I can take that criticism, and I'm pretty well integrated these days. But you know, like my worst fear is being chased by a current affair through a McDonald's car park or something like that, because the media is painting me as having done something wrong. But Carl, I think for anyone who wants to get better at actually, managing their time, they need to first value their time. And we may have shared this in an earlier episode, but to share it in this quick fire sale episode, if you think about your target revenue for the year, so the total number of your top line sales for the year, and you divide that by 2080. 2080 is a very special number, apart from being a play on the 80-20 rule. But 2080 is the number of hours that you have each year for work time, roughly based on 40 hours a week, 52 weeks in the year. And so based on that, when you know your total revenue for the business divided by the number of hours you have per year, you know how much money the business needs to generate for each hour that you work in that business per year. Now, you don't have to do all the delivery, but you're responsible for that commercial result every hour. And so when you have that number, and mine is a couple of $1,000, I haven't done it, I think $2,500 the last time I did it, I now know that anything that I do in my life that is worth less than $2,500 per hour is not good use of my time. And that's the easiest way for you to say, okay, I've been given an opportunity, or I've had someone ask something of me, or here's this customer that's come to me and I'm kind of feeling like I'm needing the money, so I might go ahead and do this. It's an opportunity for you to reflect and say, is my time actually worth engaging in this right now?
And let's just cover something here. We're not saying you, instead of doing that thing with the client, you go and sit on the couch, although you're totally welcome to do that. It's about deciding, is this the thing? Is the best use of that hour? Is this the best use of the time? Because I don't know about you, Pete, but I still, even now, get a lot of people who will come to me and go, hey, email me or call me up. I mean, I don't take a lot of phone calls. My voicemail says, don't leave me a voicemail, send me a text. I don't answer the phone unless you're already in my phone. There's a whole bunch of things that are my boundaries. But they'll still sometimes be like, hey, let's get together and talk about this thing, and let's just see if we can collaborate. Now, I'm all for collaboration. I totally am. But there's an earlier version of me that would have just been like, yes, 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 explore everything. Whereas now it's a lot more like, well, hold on. Is this feel aligned to what other things I'm working on? Is this a distraction to my other priorities right now? Am I saying no completely, or am I saying not right now? And I think that's an important distinction to talk about here on a boundaries episode. No doesn't have to be no, never. It can be, but no can also be a no, not right now. No, yeah. No and no but. And so can yes. Yes can be yes, I would like to meet with you, but in 3 months' time, right? Yeah. You don't have to think of it purely black and white. I'm either saying yes or no. There are shades of yes and no.
Man, that's something that I had to learn in therapy, literally, which was the words I'm undecided. And it's okay to say I'm undecided. I don't have to give an immediate yes, and I don't have to give an immediate no, because I was like the people pleaser. I was the yes man, and we've talked previously about how childhood traumas play out in business. A real big one for a lot of people is fear of abandonment. I mean, I think, most people have that fear in various levels. When someone asks you to do something, the fear of saying no is a pretty potent fear. And so I wanted to kind of address that and kind of share, how can you say no, or how can you assert your boundaries in a healthy way? And I love, Carl, that you shared about customers reaching out to you in private messages on your private social pages, because I have that happening all the time as well. And if one of our projects is going slowly, we'll have a business owner who will message me, and they have channels to have things escalated with our team, but they choose for whatever reason not to use those channels to message me. Now, how I respond to those is really important, because I have the opportunity of responding and asserting boundaries when I respond. These days I don't avoid them anymore, where previously I might have just avoided it, or I might have got really angry. These days now I respond and I say, hey, thanks so much. I'm not the best person to help you with this personally. However, what I can do to help is flag it with our leaders and our management, who will be able to get it sorted out. So that's what I'm going to do for you right now, right? So, I kind of remove the emotional tension around saying no. For me, the statement is, I can say no and still be okay. I can say no and still be loved. I can say no and not be rejected or abandoned. So if you're looking for a mantra, you might want to use one of those mantras.
I love that.
But when you respect yourself, you build happiness in yourself, and you build self-esteem in yourself when you honor your boundaries and you respect and you look after your boundaries. And that's just such an important underlying behavior to be able to build in yourself. I had a mentor of mine, James Schramko, who is quite popular and well known in the internet marketing space, and he'd be given opportunities and outreach all the time. And he used to share with me his responses when someone offered for him to have a coffee with them. One of those, which was really clever, if someone said, "Hey, could we jump on a call?" or "Hey, could we have a coffee?" he would reply and say, "Hey, well, what would you like to cover? If we were to catch up, what would you like to cover?" And at that point, most people will write a few sentences about what they're interested in. And then he would be able to respond and say either, "Yes, I'm interested," or in many cases, respond and say, "I can best serve you by," and what would be followed by would be something other than him giving his time to meet with that person.
Like a podcast
and I just thought that was
episode
phenomenal.
or a product or a service or something.
It was, recommendation to someone, 2 sentences on where they could go to get help, but anything other than the thing that he was not interested in doing, which was actually giving his time. And I think, we're so fearful, I know at least for myself, I would be so fearful of saying no to someone because fearing that they would then reject me, me not wanting to reject them, that I just had no way of actually handling saying no to someone. And if you can learn a few of those frameworks, if you can go, okay, this person needs my help, but what's right for me is not to do what they want me to do. Well, how can I express love to this person? How can I support this person while also supporting and honoring myself and what I want? And that's like boundaries 101, right? And it's fucking hard to build that. That takes practice.
Oh, I'm not, like, I've got certain areas of my life that I feel like I've created boundaries that are really artificial with technology and things. But when it comes to me personally having to say no, like it's something that I'm still constantly working through. And my biggest wound that I think is around abandonment. That's why, like, when a client cancels, if it's a number, I don't care. But if I know the story behind it, I feel awful because I think it triggers my abandonment. They've left me. They've left. So I totally know what you're talking about. And, saying no is not always easy to friends, to family, to clients, to team members. Although, have you ever noticed that there are certain times when it's not hard to do? There's a time when, there are those moments where it's just, the thought of not saying no just doesn't come past you. And I can't tell you what yours are, but there are certain times that when a team member comes to me with an idea, I can have no problem saying, "No, that not going to happen. No way in hell." Where there are other times they'll come to me and I'm like, oh, what's the difference? It's the value. It's the certainty I have within me around what I will and will not tolerate. And I think that's a big part of what these boundaries are, is you getting clear on what you will and will not tolerate and shifting that, then building the muscle of learning to say no when, and I don't know if you've noticed this, Pete, I can totally do this. If I say yes to something that I know deep down I wanted to say no to, I feel it around my solar plexus, kind of chest area. I don't know if it's a tightness, I can't describe it properly, but I get this feeling where it's like my body is telling me, you just said an absolute lie, like you've regretted saying yes to that. Or it could be no, maybe I've said no to something and my body's saying, no, actually that was a yes, why have you? And so start to pay attention to those things as well when you're building this muscle of no.
Yeah, in the study of Tantra and some other meditative type studies as well, I've learnt of a modality of asking your mind, asking your heart, asking your gut, and asking your genitals what you think about a decision, and actually feeling into each one of those energy centers and feeling what your body is saying. And we'll do another whole episode on that another time.
That genitals one is new. I've heard about
a
the
short,
head, the heart, and the
sharp one.
gut, but wow.
You got to listen to what they're saying, and that's in the simplest sense, placing your hand there and just feeling into, what is my decision here? What is my true decision? And there's a beautiful quote that I heard recently: "If I truly love myself, what will I do? If I truly love myself and want to do what's right for me, what will I do?" Because we all get to show up in the world in the way where, if we're shining the brightest, we're going to serve others to a higher level. But actually being connected to yourself and your own boundaries is really the first step in making sure that you can actually do that in a healthy and an integrated way.
I love that. I love that question. If I truly love myself, what would I do here? Beautiful. I think that's a good place to wrap this up. Any final words when it comes to saying no and setting boundaries in business and life?
I have no final words apart from, when you look after yourself and when you fill your cup and when you set the boundaries around your garden, then you're able to show up better for others. And so respecting, appreciating yourself and looking after yourself is the way for you to be able to show up in abundance for others that are around you. And you're going to feel a whole lot better about yourself when you're listening to what your yeses are, what your nos are, and remembering that it's okay to say maybe or I'm undecided at this time.
Beautiful words. Yes, I think that's my biggest thing that I want you to take away from this is that there's not a black and white yes and no. There are shades around it. No, but, no, and, yes, but in 5 months' time.
And make no the default.
Yeah.
Say no before you say anything else. You don't need to make yes the default. No can be a safe default.
Isn't that the complete opposite of a movie where it was like, say yes to everything, and the world changes? Start saying no to everything and seeing how the world changes, and then find a nice balance in between. Look, let's end this episode. Just a reminder, guys, you can find all the show notes for this episode and other episodes at rising.show. That's .show instead of .com, in case you hadn't figured it out by now. So rising.show is where you get all the show notes. You can find all previous episodes, as well as on your favorite podcasting players, apps, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, wherever it is you like to tune in to these episodes. We would love to hear from you. Leave a review. If you're lazy, just click on the stars and tell us how many stars it is. If you'd like to take a little bit of extra time to share what you liked about the episodes or which was your favorite episode, we'd love comments. They're amazing, but not required. The stars are just as useful from a ranking point of view and to help us know whether we're delivering value. And then finally, if you've got questions, if you've got a specific business question, we would love to answer it on a future episode. So don't feel afraid to reach out. Even though we've said we might not answer everything, we'll at least see your question and we'll love to cover it on a future episode. So go to rising.show. You can use the contact there or hit us up on our Instagram page, which I do not remember the handle, but you'll find that at rising.show, and or Facebook page as well. So thank you for listening. That's it from me. See you later, and enjoy.
See you later. Bye.